Okay, day 70, still no Braverman, Brown, or Turi. This Happy New Year, we made it to day 70. And this is where I'm going to kind of change the game a little bit. If you haven't seen the previous presentations about how Hillary overthrew, with the Clinton Foundation, overthrew Libya and Syria, go back to, I would say, 60, and you can pick it up from there. This is where the part of the investigation where we can, it's called the color in phase. You know, you've done the chalk outlines and now we can kind of color in some details. So this is where it goes from kind of George's mimeograph sheet, you know, that handing out at the school to the people, to where it becomes like a student newspaper, where I invite people to go to the documents that I have listed below in the comments and become a commenter to the to this presentation. And you can pick, I think, certain elements in the picture. So you could pick David Petraeus' picture and then make a comment, and it'll come up over on the right, and leave comments. And what I'm looking for is what I call, Google searches or key links between entities in people that are mentioned, either between people, like Hillary's email to Petraeus, or linked to an entity like Petraeus being linked to KKNR. And if you do a three-way compound search to KKNR with a oil company, Veneto, in Mexico, and and Petraeus, it becomes even more valuable. And then just leave that link over there, so other people can research that link and fill in and color in the connections. Basically, that's where we're going with this. So I'm going to outline areas where I think this is really all about what Braverman said is follow the money, and that's really the 1,100 hidden donors. For some reason, they decided to hide those 1,100 hidden donors because they're NATO generals and EU politicians, or US politicians, or Canadian politicians, or US generals, etc. So this, I've done a lot of the heavy lifting, as people have mentioned, with a lot of the entities already to get this to the kind of the chalk outline phase. And now I'm asking folks out there to kind of jump in and do some of these compound Google searches to color in some of the details. So keep commenting on the in the section of the video if you want, but if you really want to kind of be a reporter for the school newspaper here, this is what I'm recommending. I should have pointed out on the last one, this is, I'm going to just call him Serge Popovich from Otpor, and he's the guy who basically trained the Muslim Brotherhood how to overthrow Libya and Syria. Now, he is an example of one of the entities that I'm talking about that you can search on, because if you search for him, you're always going to find the next revolutions. You're going to be able to predict, like the Polish Revolution that's coming up, just by where he goes. So you can also look at past revolutions as well. So here he is over here. This is his Webb Twitter page. So a lot of times these people have Twitter pages, and so you can just ask him right out, does Biden own any oil interest in Poland? You can ask on his Twitter page today if you want to do that. There it is. Biden did own oil interest with his son in a Ukrainian oil and gas company for the revolution in Ukraine that they threw, the color revolution that they threw in Ukraine. So why not ask him about Poland? That's the next one. I can tell you that right now. So his symbol is people throwing flowers. Why do you need to be masked? In a combat fatigues to throw flowers? I don't know why. What I have him here is throwing oil, a can of oil. The reason is that because it's all of these color revolutions are really oil plays for the senators in the oil and gas club. So I'll give you you can see his link down here, Blueprint for Revolution. So basically taking all the dictators that have been propped up in the last 40 years, and then instead of handing over instead of really creating democracy, you end up with chaos so that the senators can sell off the oil and gas rights. And give you an example is Libya. 5 years later, 5 years later now, we still have civil war in Libya. So we've got Muslim Brotherhood in 32 countries, and all the email between, Valerie Jarrett, Huma, and all these contacts. We're looking at 32 of these things. We're not looking at, 1, 2, or 3, or 7, we're looking at 7 as the short-term plan from the Middle East project, but we're looking at 32 in all. So here's, if you want to do some research for the school newspaper, here's how you do it. This is kind of what I call a compound Google search. You can just put in here, I'm going to just say Serge Popovich, and senator in arms or oil man of your choice. You just use the and two things in quotes and does a real focused compound search. Or senator of your choice or oil and arms man of your choice and Clinton Foundation. So I guarantee you that search works. So anyway, here's this gal worked for Hillary. She's just assistant deputy secretary of state, and she's handing out cookies here in Ukraine. But then by day, but then at night she's saying, you know, all these F-bomb laced phone calls about how we need to overthrow this guy and get that guy, and you know, it's kind of like Hillary's emails. It shows you what they're really doing at night. And it's all about this. It's all about the oil play. It's never really about, oh, you know, we need to get warm blankets for the people in my Maiden Square. So I'm going to start a counter here for things that you can search on. And this is red is kind of like, I'm not going to say bad guys, but I'm just saying these are going to be people who are involved in nefarious activities like these late night phone calls where they're trying to overthrow people. And so Victoria Nuland, you're going to get number 1. 2 and 3, Joe Biden and your son, you're going to get 2 and 3. So just trying to make it easy for researchers and things that you want to research on. Now, yesterday I talked about, and I'll go back to yesterday to understand this slide, but there are CIA agents involved with NATO setting up these sex operations, and it's called the CIA Brownstone operation. So you can read down below what a Brownstone operation is. But the unfortunate part of, and Jeffrey Epstein is just one example, the ones he ran in New York and Little St. James Island. The thing about a Brownstone operation is a lot of times when they're done with the kids, you know, kids get to be about 30 or 30, and they're kind of like no longer, they encourage them to go into prostitution and kind of try to keep their lives disrupted, so they have this kind of life of alcohol and drugs till they're about 30, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these deaths, suicides, and so forth at 30 to 40. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to put in green here, like there was 40 kids in the Brownstone operation on Jeff Epstein's island in that investigation. Invite the family members of those kids, especially if they've died young, 30 to 40 years old, of suicide or, you know, a car accident or just unusual things. You know, just weird freak accidents of these 40 kids. You're going to see this all over. So all the Washington, D.C. Brownstone operations, the New York Brownstone, the Boulder, Colorado one, the one in L.A. where a kid goes missing. If you go to a cult, a lot of these cults are Brownstone operations. So engage those family members to come here and do these kind of searches, because I guarantee you all this isn't by accident. You know, this is the same pattern replaying over and over again with these Brownstone operations. So Chandelon ran the one with Valerie Plame in Europe for the NATO generals. So I'm going to use him as, like, if you have NATO general research, he's going to kind of be the figurehead for the NATO generals. And if you have CIA type information, Drumheller and Plame are going to be the keys there. Okay. So the leopards don't change their spots, and they keep repeating the patterns. So you're going to see like Epstein and Drumheller, or you know, you're going to keep doing these compound searches, because that's how you can see if there's a connection. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say that any Middle East contractor coming to the Council of Foreign Relations in New York is worthy of a search, especially if they're kind of these billionaire recluses that are hiding behind fake organization names, like White Helmets for Asfari, or like Rahman for SOHR, the Human Rights Organization for SOHR. Especially when they're speaking, if they're speakers at petroleum conferences and so forth. Now I'm going to go right out now and say, well, I'll wait till the slide on Long Island Killer. But I should have put a green symbol for here for Ava Bartlett. Let her know what this investigation is doing, so she can help connect the dots as well. So the people in green are going to be places where you're going to either do some recruiting, for good guy recruiting, I guess is what I would say. So here is the Justra with the 1,100 donors. That's the guy that we're trying to bring to light who are the 1,100 hidden folks. I'm going to go ahead and say Jeff Skoll, CCC, all the people at CCC who have ever traveled to New York, Justra, Slim, Carlos Slim, Belle Reeve, who is in IHRC. This is the funding arm that was created for Hillary for the U.S. aid and World Bank, and HSBC private bank members. So anybody involved in that investigation, those names, I think they scrubbed them pretty good. Comey scrubbed them pretty good, but any of those names can be used in the compound searching. Anyone involved in the Monica Peterson investigation also becomes an ally, and let them know, because they become a potential searcher here as well, okay? You're going to start finding out that there's going to be serial murderers in different parts of the country and things that didn't make any sense, and the mothers are going, why? It usually is something like this. Either they're investigating something like this, or they've been a victim of these kind of brownstone drug rape things. A lot of times the girls don't even know that they were raped because of the propofol and other things they use, where it eliminates the memory of it. So people involved in who've lost children, and it's unbelievable that Laura Silsby would be running the Amber program right now. But people who've lost children, I heard she's changed her name, but anybody who's lost children, get them involved in this as a researcher, because this is all tied together, and one hand washes the other in this research. Microfinancing is another one, which is kind of almost like micro loan sharking. This is, if you read about Hugh Sinclair and how micro loan sharking is used to force these women into prostitution, force their children into prostitution. Okay, so on to the next slide. This is Slim and Eunice, kind of the microfinancing people. You're going to find this microfinancing that Hugh Sinclair talks about, that happened in India, where these people were getting 195% interest rates and couldn't even read and write, and they were signing contracts with their fingerprint, and they were having to borrow money to just pay interest. So that's that whole loan sharking thing. That's a gateway crime to push people into the other crimes that they never thought they would ever commit, like like prostitution, or prostituting their children, or removing one kidney to pay interest rates and so forth. You're going to find out this link to Slim is going to be done all over Latin America. So you're going to see this Central America, South America, and in the Caribbean especially. Okay, so that's why Slim is so linked to the Monica Peterson case. Again, all these folks, he's going to be very involved in with Epstein and setting up these parties. The other one, that's Rhinus, okay? There's Petraeus, Bash, Shapiro, Morell. Again, Bash is the good guy. He's the guy coming up with the cover stories. Hey, the rebels are really horrible, or hey, the rebels are really good guys, whatever the spin is that CNN wants to put on things. But Rhinus is going to be your guy that's going to be doing the parties. And look at these NATO C3 meetings. Get the calendar out, see when the C3 meetings are, see who the attendees are, see who the speakers are, and then start doing those compound searches. You can also do a compound search on CENTCOM or anything Michael Hastings ever wrote about. So these reporters that were killed become great focal points, because they didn't get killed for no reason. They got killed for a good reason. So, this. Also, the reason I'm doing this color in is, hey, if I get hit by a bus, I'd like this to go on afterwards. So again, Grange would be another good one to do a compound search on. Osprey would be a good one. Anything with CIA, Delta Force, and Blumenthal would be a good search. Okay, and just put them in the comments, and I'll publish them all, and I'll be the one taking the risk. Comment anonymously if you want. Again, with the FBI cover up of this, all the names like Andrew McCabe, anything he did case wise. If you have case citations where he's done cases, by looking at how he's proceeded with the like he did a lot of kind of fake terrorism, like entrapment cases. I was involved in one of those where I kind of was a critic of him, and that's why he doesn't like me. But anyway. Any case citations that you want to send me, I'll process those, and we can do compound searches on who the victims were of those. Like, for instance, Quattrone and Martha Stewart, et cetera, et cetera. So, especially look at cases around 2002, 2003, 2004, when Hillary was trying to build up her war chest for the Clinton Foundation after Bill had left office, and they kind of needed. They had a kind of a dip in donations. So I'm probably going a little long here, so I'll quit. But McAuliffe is going to be another one. If you look on people who all of a sudden their lives kind of take a huge disruption and a huge turn downwards, all of a sudden you find somebody that you knew or a friend, they started, getting paranoid. All of a sudden they were very successful. All of a sudden they're paranoid and they think everybody's watching them, et cetera, et cetera. They get on medication. Their life starts going downhill. This is a sure sign of what they call active surveillance, okay? So if you know anybody who's had that happen to them, they couldn't quite figure out why their son or daughter OD'd or whatever, they're a great place for researchers. Another good guy here is Ron Fournier, the original reporter where Braverman said, follow the money. So I'll just keep going here for a couple more names. Joe Clancy, Secret Service. This is kind of like McCabe's doing the electronic surveillance on people, the kind of the Snowden type stuff. And then Clancy's doing that with the 50 agents when they need to do a deep dive on like Chaffetz. He's also doing the prowling, the night prowling. So you'll find that the Secret Service agents you can't tell where they were at any given day. It's all paper as far as their scheduling system. That's why, because they don't want the Secret Service, night intrusions to be tracked. So there's another name and another organization, another entity, and this is so important. I'm going to go a little bit long. Journalists, Ava Bartlett, Seymour Hersh, obviously, Mazzetti here, James Risen of the New York Times, all journalists in general, but the ones who've already reported are going to be your best bets. Eric Schmidt here with the New York Times, and just make comments. Just put their citations on the right here, and I'll publish all of them. Okay. So I think we're going to get to sarin gas here. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is this page is for people who want to kind of do the trafficking. I want Putin to send hundreds of investigators, not just 12, in the plane that gets shot down or whatever happened to it, gassed or whatever happened to it. I want Putin to send hundreds of investigators for the child trafficking and the chemical weapons. So encouraging posting to RT and other, kind of Russia-backed publications are going to be good. If you have, for instance, when this French team investigating human trafficking in Libya was killed in Malta, if you want to look for Malta offshore accounts, this is the Panama Papers is a good source for that. Also, just plane crashes in general. If you see small planes going down and you can't figure out why they're doing this weird jackknifing, or it's weird, like, it looks like they might have been gassed, or, you can't figure out why, send me those links of weird plane crashes, okay? And this is the Long Island case. I'm just going to go ahead and say that start searching for any meetings of the Council of Foreign Relations where they had Middle East contractors coming in. Okay, that's where you're also going to find that Popovich guy from the second slide. He's the guy meeting with these oil guys, this Popovich, saying, what do you want me to overthrow first? Where's the oil so I can establish the rat line, so I can meet with the CIA to establish the rat line? So, Morell needs to know where to gas, because they don't want to do it away from the oil line and have a rat line to nowhere. So I'm going to just tell you right now, Council on Foreign Relations meetings with like Al-Mabani or CCC are going to be places to look, and it's going to relate directly. I'm not saying Rahman killed or ordered anybody killed, any of the girls killed in the Long Island case, but I'm saying he does have information that will lead to the killer. Okay. So last one. I'm sorry this is so long, but Hogan and Hartson is kind of this clutch of lawyers that, Sandy Berger destroying things at the National Archives, Loretta Lynch, so many obstructions I can't count them, and then Cheryl Mills with the thumb drive in Hillary's workstation to get the secure stuff off. Khan, who's doing the visas for all these people, the sex shops. Look for like this kinky lick or whatever the heck it is down in Charlottesville. Look at temporary visas for students staying just one summer and so forth from Middle Eastern countries, okay? So these are just a couple of the areas I want to encourage. Send me your emails and I can make you, if you want to be known, if you want to remain anonymous, I think you can just comment anonymously. And that's it for today.